Hello everybody, David Kennedy, Canopy Realtor Association and MLS President, here with another ordinary realtor who has done some extraordinary things. Dan Cottingham, how are you?
David, I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. Now there's a rumor, are you the youngest president to ever serve? Is that a true?
If I took over even today, I would be the youngest at heart. I have no earthly idea. I think the date of birth issue is probably an accurate one.
Well, I feel like I have to start here. There's normal places I start, but I have to start here because you served in '84 as president with a firm less than a year old, a son maybe 2 years old.
Correct. Who thinks the world of you?
Thank you very much. This is a personal question as well as a professional question. How'd you do it? I don't know how I'm doing it. How did you do that?
I'm not going to flip it on you. I'm just going to say I don't know how you do it either. It's as no one knows how demanding a job it is but you. And I didn't have to do what you're doing. And it was fun. I mean, you've got the excitement and the adrenaline of just like the Olympics. You just got the excitement. It's big time to serve. It's just big time to serve. And to be starting and having the excitement of your own firm and to be able to serve at the same time was just invigorating. And just a lot of help from within the firm. Ask everyone in the firm if they supported it, and they did. And they thought it would be good for our business and good for the industry. And hopefully it was. Hopefully it was. But thank you.
So what kind of inspired you to come and serve? I mean, you're in a lot of times people are in the business for several years. And when did you get in the business? When did you start?
I started in '76, okay. And then I got into sales management in '78, which today would be big. So I was ready and wanted to serve, and my firm head, Mr. Touchberry, encouraged me to serve. And I think that kind of encouragement, as I encouraged you to serve, that kind of encouragement only comes if someone sees something in you, as I saw something in you. And that's where my encouragement came from. So that feeds us. You know that, I know that, and serving's what it's all about.
So when you're in leadership, this is when computers are starting to take off a little bit. And, you know, some firms have computers, maybe some don't. We're still in the listing books. When you remember back, do you remember ever where there was a time where it felt like it was a hybrid? Some people were doing it on the computer, some people were doing it on the books. Was there ever any give and take there that as a leader you had to kind of be mindful of both ways of how the pendulum was swinging back and forth to certain technology?
I think so. We were going from, and just to show you, we had something that doesn't exist today, but what did exist in Charlotte was a phone book this thick. And every single week, every other week, our MLS book this thick was published. And so just the paper waste was phenomenal. And we would come and pick up these books, and if there were 20 people you worked with, you got 20 books in your group. And so it was just phenomenal. Then as we were transitioning from that, and we had the hybrid, we were using both, you really could see the future. You just could see the future that my gracious, we can quit this paper waste. And I was actually taking these MLS books and I was recycling them in my backyard. I built a retaining wall in my backyard with the old MLS books, and I'm not a master gardener, but our garden was on tour, and several tours, and I just loved it. I loved to garden. It was my therapy of putting up with real estate clientele. And so I recycled these books, but most of them went to waste. So in this transition from paper to computer, it had tremendous friction, and it was really tough on the industry. But we made that transition during the years which I was serving, and it was the best thing I think that ever happened from the standpoint of technology, because the technology just improved every year as more and more users hit the streets.
So what does take a little longer mean to you? I'm going to tell you what it means to me. But every once in a while, I have a neighborhood where you can cut through. And every once in a while, I'll see somebody cut through, and I'm like, really? And a Take a Little Longer campaign that you championed was an acknowledgement of a needed interrelationship between builders and developers and homeowners associations that would figure out, hey, how do we make sure people aren't cutting through neighborhoods on their commute where it could be dangerous for kids out playing in the streets. You did things with traffic studies. You were on media to get the word out. These are things that today we have the luxury of your service. How did that come about? What kind of brought that to the forefront of some of the things that you were doing that year?
The real estate is all about fabric and how the communities all fit together. And when you've got a street that has got housing that was designed for neighborhood traffic and it starts getting city traffic, then it breaks that fabric. And so we saw it was a high percentage of residential streets that just a block to 2 blocks away was a better route. It had street lights, street signs, had traffic signals. It was a superior thoroughfare type street that if you took it, it might take you just a little bit longer, but all of our studies showed that it would use less gas, it did less harm to our fabric. So we thought we would try and make the community aware of it, and we did. And the community support, of course, from folks whose homes had what I'll call trespassing traffic, they were in favor of it. And it really had a meaningful impact just in increasing the awareness of it. The end goal was mass transit. That was my vision and end goal of praying that we would have mass transit. And mass transit only occurs when the headache of traffic's so large that you've got to come up with an alternative. And that's where we are today, and we've really benefited from mass transit.
So right now, the big topic is the Charlotte 2040 Comprehensive Plan. We're looking to kind of strategically and intelligently plan Charlotte's growth for the next 20 years. That's something familiar to you because you served on a committee back in your days with big names like Cliff Cameron, Harvey Gantt, and you were doing the exact same thing. You were projecting, 20 years down the road where growth in Charlotte was going to be. Talk to us a little bit about that, committee that you were on, some of the people that were on there with you, and how that growth today, where we are today, came as a result of that committee work.
Okay, the 2040 plan actually started in 2019 and was to be completed in 2020, 20 years away. Mm-hmm. We did the 2005 plan. 20 years before that was 1985. So we started in 1984, and we met every week for about 50 weeks. And we put a plan that our goal was to drive growth as much as we could up to the university area, up to the Lake Norman area, and down the I-77 corridor going south. And we had tremendous infrastructure, but we didn't have much population in those locations. We were successful in doing that with a comprehensive plan. The 2040 plan, the 2005 plan, do not have power. They only have the power of suggestion. They are recommendations. And so the one thing we missed, and this is a bit humor, but up on I-77 North going towards Lake Norman, we nailed the tree, we nailed the rooftops, we nailed the zoning, we nailed the population, we got all that accurate, we had all this information coming into us. The one thing we missed terribly was traffic. Makes us no kidding, cowboy, you really blew it on traffic. Well, guess what? We nailed the population, we nailed the size of the household, because all that data was fed to us from MIT programs. What killed us was we could not project the number of trips per day. Back then it was called the soccer mom. Yeah. And so all of a sudden, each household is taking more trips a day, and that took the traffic count way up. That's why it's hard to project 20 years in advance, because you're going to have societal changes, and soccer being one of them, and all those activities. So that was a lot of work and a lot of fun and a lot of vision taking forward, and it was really fun back in 2005, being one of the survivors of that committee. Some of the interviews and saying, here's what we got right. Here's what we got wrong with traffic. No kidding. I mean, it was great.
Well, okay, history repeats itself, so it has in that regard. Back in '84, there was a community revitalization committee, and you, in your leadership, go around and it would take low-income housing or blighted housing that just needed help, and you would fix it up, and then the city would take it over and rent it out to low-income citizens. Fast forward to 2009, there's this brand new idea called Realtors Care Day, and 3 people that really spearheaded that are Joe Remsen, Terry Marshall, and a guy named Daniel Cottingham. What was it like to see that almost essentially repeat itself, to see your son similarly doing the same things in the community to help build houses, to help revitalize areas, all those years later?
It was incredibly meaningful to me as a father, but more meaningful to me as a realtor, to see 3 people come forward with something that could be so impactful and hands-on. When you get folks hands-on, when you get them involved with their time, and get them involved with a neighbor that's had a tough run at things, all of a sudden they become more involved through a lot of different entities. And so the ripple effect of Realtors Care Day is phenomenal. It's gotten a lot of our realtors involved in different organizations within the community. So the ripple effect has been far more powerful than I ever dreamed of.
So staying in the foundation realm might be an easy question considering who we just saw. Humanitarian Award. When was that established? Do you remember who the first humanitarian award recipient was? And what's your involvement in humanitarian award over the years?
This is a secret. Nobody knows it. But I've had this thought that I had never seen a past president come back and do so much, and very Jimmy Carter-esque than David Barnhart. And I thought that we should encourage our past presidents to recycle themselves and keep on serving the communities, regardless of their age. And I just hadn't seen anybody do it as much as David. And we came up with an idea, which again, this is a secret. I privately funded something that would be an award, and I didn't make any requirements that David be the first recipient, which he was. But I sort of wished it. And I can't think of anybody that is better at being our foundation than David. And I encourage all of our past presidents, our MLS leadership, and all of you guys to continue your involvement after your leadership role passes, because you know so much more, and you know what the community needs, and you know what challenges that you've faced in your leadership to the industry. I know this might not be what we're looking for in these videos, and I know this will probably get edited out, but what you're giving back to the community, David, is immeasurable. And I just want to thank you from all of us for doing that. And I really want to flip this, and I hope it does make the cut, because you were making a tremendous sacrifice. And it's the same kind of sacrifice I saw in David Barnhart. And I commend you for that. I really want to extend the highest compliment to you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to read some names or say some names, and you tell me what they have in common, what they mean to you. Patty McKeel, Donna Anderson, Sandy Larsh, Eric Locker, Maren Brisson-Kuster, Dan Cottingham. What do they all have in common?
Well, they're all tremendous people, with the exception of one, myself, and they're also tireless leaders, and they all came in and asked me that magical question about, should I serve? I've got the opportunity, or my shoulders have been tapped, and I've been selected to put my name in the hat. Should I do it? And I I asked them questions about what was their motivation. What are you going to do when that steak's burning on the grill and you're on the phone listening to something that might not be as important to you as it is to the caller, and it's a fellow realtor. So what are you going to do? And they all said, I'll let the steak burn. And so they've got that in common. And I'm so proud as a firm to have the multitude of people that have served, some not once but twice, and have found other leadership roles in our community, in our state association, national association. I'm just incredibly proud of all of them. Marin, I just marvel at her energy. I'm so proud of her as well. I really am. It's just fabulous.
What does it say about your firm, like the individual realtors in your firm, who have not served as presidents? These are people that your firm has contributed the most presidents in the 100-year history of our association. And all the service that those presidents do, they always talk about, there's always someone in the office that will help them out when they're not there. They'll show a client a house, or they'll pick up a listing. What does it say about the culture in your firm when so many of your realtors have served as president, and then so many others in your firm have done the work to support and help them in that endeavor?
It's part of our recruitment process in that when we're speaking with folks about joining our firm, that's one of the requirements that we have, that we don't tell them is a requirement. I want to hear whether they're givers or takers. And so when you hire that way, in 1986, we talked to 207 people that wanted to come and work with our firm, and we hired 7. Just very selective and very, the filter is just really tight. But if someone comes in and all they don't care about anything but themselves, then is that what you want your clients to receive? Is that what you want your community to receive? And our association here, the Canopy and the MLS, it's what it's all about. It's the fabric of our community. And if we aren't willing to volunteer and serve, then what does that say about us? If we want to have the most fabulous trade association there is. So it just, my boss, Mr. Touchberry, when I first got in the business, told me that we don't own our space, we rent it. And with me, I tell everyone the rent goes up each year, and you need to pay more, because we don't own our space. We don't. And you need to be givers. We just need to be givers.
What's one of your favorite memories in terms of leadership here at Canopy or at the Charlotte Regional Realtors Association? What's something that you look back on that's one of your favorite memories, whether it be people you served with or things that you accomplished over the years? What's something that really stands out that just makes you excited, makes you proud, makes you smile?
Well, I got a call one night. We had just a really one of a brand new realtor told me that we needed to do something giving back, and that they had an idea that they represented very inexpensive housing, and that none of that housing had smoke detectors. And so we got up with some of the police department and said, will you help us with some data? And they did, and it was amazing. The poorest areas had 0 smoke detectors, 0. And so we started seeing if we could get smoke detectors donated, and we got quite a few, and then we got quite a few more. But getting a call one night from a fireman who just stuttered just a little bit, but it said, I just want you to know that one of those smoke detectors saved this entire family's life. And I told him, no, sir, it helped, but you saved their lives. And that was so meaningful to me, to be able to flip it back on him like I flipped it back on you. We're givers. But to think about all those smoke detectors, and then just within 3 years, it became a zoning requirement that you had to have smoke detectors. And so all the landlords had to put them in. All the buyer moves in, they had to have it. You had to have one to sell. So that was meaningful, and just one of those little things, taking someone else's recommendation and putting it in front of our fabulous association and bringing it up through MLS, and MLS said, man, that's a great idea. Maybe we should put in a little code here to show whether we have a smoke detector or not. And it was through MLS leadership that we did it.
What, in your opinion, what does it mean to be a realtor? Has it changed over the years? Are there still some consistencies?
It's to me, being a realtor is a very, very high calling. It's if you do it right, and that's service from the heart. It's very much like teaching, and very much like the ministry. It's just a higher calling. And if all you're after is money, it's a lower calling. But if you really want to help people, and you get so excited when someone calls and says, David, I want you to work with these people because of how you helped me, and they refer you to someone. Referring is what being a realtor means to me. Being referred and being recommended because of the service that you did. And when someone gives you a bottle of wine or a thank you note for selling them a house, oh my gosh, you must have done something, a higher calling, because you took their interest and you let that steak burn on the grill. That's what it means to me to this day, and it meant it all the way back then. It's just a higher calling.
So this is important coming from you, because you are the youngest president to ever serve. Your firm has the most presidents that have ever committed to serve. What advice would you give a realtor in terms of being a realtor, and then also in terms of leadership?
Well, it's quite simple. You want those to give back that have a lot to give. And Albert Schweitzer said, the true worth of man is not to be found in man himself, but in the colors and textures that come alive in others because of him. Well, we should say him or her, but that was the quote that he put out. And so when you see those colors and textures in someone, you want to encourage them to lead. I again, want to spread you around. I want more and more people to be in contact with you, David, and you'll encourage so many people today to get into leadership because of the courage it required for you to do it, and the timing that it was in your career. And the last time I checked, they're not paying us to do this, and I don't think that's changed. And they might have doubled your pay, but 0 times 2 is 0. So everything you're doing is strictly from the heart. And that's what I would encourage them to do, is saying, I'm looking at you, I see a lot. How about giving a lot? And this is where I would take it, and this is how I would do it. And not why I would do it, this is how I would do it, or this is when I would do it. And a lot of times that when is now. And you keep complimenting us about how many presidents we have, past presidents. A lot of these compliments only come because of my date of birth and been around a while. And I will tell you that one of the beauties of this business is that you can do it for such a long time if you choose to. And just don't burn yourself out. Help others, help others, help others.